Imagine standing on a golf course, wind cutting across your face, thousands of eyes locked on you, the championship on the line. Your ball is buried deep in the rough, practically invisible, wedged against a rock, at an angle that every physics textbook on the planet would call unplayable. Your caddy whispers quietly, "Take the penalty drop." Your coach from the sideline mouths the same. Even your own heartbeat seems to be telling you to walk away. But something inside you, something irrational, something almost supernatural, tells you to swing anyway. You close your eyes for just a half second. The club rises. The crowd goes utterly, completely silent. And then, the crack of impact splits the air. The ball launches on an impossible trajectory. It curves. It bounces. It rolls. And it disappears into the hole. The crowd doesn't cheer immediately. They freeze. Because what they just witnessed wasn't golf. It was something else entirely. Something that cannot be explained. Something that, even years later, commentators still struggle to put into words. What you're about to watch isn't a highlight reel. It's a collection of moments where human limitation was simply ignored. If you've ever watched something and genuinely thought to yourself, "That cannot be real," then hit that subscribe button right now, because this channel is built for exactly those moments. Every week, we go deep into the stories behind the shots, the records, and the athletes who refuse to accept what was possible. Golf is often called a gentleman's sport. Precise, calculated, controlled. A game of millimeters, of wind readings, of patient strategy built over 4 rounds and 72 holes. Most casual fans see it as slow, quiet, almost boring if you've never played it. But here's what those people don't understand. Golf is, at its absolute core, a game of complete and utter psychological warfare against yourself. Every single shot is a negotiation between your conscious mind and the trembling, second-guessing part of your brain that remembers every mistake you've ever made. And when those two forces collide under the pressure of a major championship, in front of millions of people, with everything on the line, that's when magic happens. Or, as we'll see today, something that looks an awful lot like a miracle. Let's start in Augusta, Georgia. 1935, the Masters Tournament. A golfer named Gene Sarazen is standing 235 yards from the 15th hole. He's trailing by 3 strokes. The tournament, by any reasonable calculation, is over for him. The gallery is beginning to thin out. People are drifting away. Even Bobby Jones, watching from nearby, has essentially mentally moved on. Sarazen selects a 4-wood, an unusual choice. His playing partner, Walter Hagen, mutters something dismissive. And then Sarazen swings. The ball sails high and long, drops onto the green, bounces twice, and rolls, slowly, agonizingly, directly into the cup. A double eagle. On the 15th hole of the Masters. In that moment, the gallery erupted with a sound that reportedly echoed across the entire course. It would later be called the shot heard round the world. And nearly a century later, it still gives goosebumps to anyone who truly understands what they're looking at. If you've ever had a moment, in sports, in life, in anything, where you did something that shocked even yourself, drop it in the comments. Because those moments are more connected to what Sarazen felt than you might think. Now let's move forward in time. Because the impossible shots didn't stop with Sarazen. If anything, they only got more unbelievable. Tiger Woods. 2005, the 16th hole at Augusta. The Masters, once again. Because Augusta, it seems, has a particular taste for the extraordinary. Tiger's ball lands on the wrong side of the green. A brutal lie, far from the pin, with a severe slope between him and the hole. His only option appears to be a gentle chip that stops near the cup. Safe, sensible, professional. But Tiger doesn't play safe when he smells something greater. He reads the slope with an almost frightening precision. He chips the ball, not toward the hole, but away from it. The ball rolls toward the edge of the green, slows down, teeters on the absolute lip of the cup, pauses for what feels like 3 full seconds, and then drops in. The Nike swoosh on the ball visible for a full heartbeat before disappearing. The commentator on CBS simply whispered, "Oh wow." 2 words. Because 2 words were all the English language could manage in that moment. That shot was later voted the greatest moment in golf history by Golf Digest. Not the greatest chip. The greatest moment. Ever. And here's what made it even more extraordinary. Tiger had done the math on that shot in roughly 4 seconds. The slope, the grain, the wind, the speed, the angle of release. All of it, processed and executed in the time it takes most of us to decide what to have for lunch. But perhaps the most emotionally charged, most deeply human shot in golf history didn't come at the Masters. It came at the 1999 Ryder Cup, the Brookline Country Club, and it came from a man who, at that point, most people had already written off. Justin Leonard. American team. Europe had been dominating. The pressure was suffocating. The crowd at Brookline was electric with tension, the kind of tension that makes your chest tight just watching old footage. Leonard was on the 17th green. A 45-foot putt separated him from a point that could keep American hopes alive. 45 feet. In golf terms, that's not a putt you make. That's a putt you pray over. Leonard took his stance. The crowd fell silent with that particular quality of silence that only exists when thousands of people are collectively holding their breath. He stroked the ball. It rolled and rolled and rolled, curving slightly, tracking like it had eyes, and dropped into the cup with a sound that detonated the crowd like a bomb. Players ran onto the green. Teammates embraced. People wept openly. It was one of those sporting moments where even opposing fans, deep in their hearts, had to acknowledge they'd just witnessed something sacred. What level of mental stillness does it take to execute a 45-foot putt in that moment? How does a human being quiet every nerve, every voice, every fear, and simply perform? Let's talk about Phil Mickelson. Because Mickelson's entire career has been a study in the physics defying. His left-handedness gave him a natural ability to shape shots in ways that right-handed players struggle to replicate. But it was at the 2010 Masters that he produced perhaps his most iconic moment. 13th hole. His ball had come to rest behind a large pine tree, completely blocked. A direct path to the green was impossible. But Mickelson didn't look for a direct path. He looked for the impossible path. He opened the club face to a degree that most professionals wouldn't even attempt in practice. He bent the ball around the tree with a sweeping, almost violent arc, the ball curving like a boomerang, and it landed softly on the green, leaving him a makeable birdie putt. The commentators lost their composure completely. One of them simply laughed, because there was no other human response available. When Mickelson's wife Amy, who had been battling breast cancer, watched from behind the ropes, in that moment, it wasn't just a golf shot. It was a man communicating something to the person he loved most. Watch what I can do. Watch what we can do. If that doesn't move something inside you, check your pulse. Now we move to something that seems almost algorithmically designed to be impossible. The hole-in-one, the single rarest individual achievement in professional golf. Statistically, for a professional golfer, the odds of making a hole-in-one on any given par 3 are roughly 2,500 to 1. For an amateur, try 12,500 to 1. And yet, in the 1989 U.S. Open at Oak Hill, something happened that shattered even the mathematics of rarity. On the 6th hole, a short par 3, for different golfers made a hole-in-one in the same round. Doug Weaver, Mark Weeb, Jerry Pate, Nick Price. For aces, same hole, same day. The statistical probability of that occurring has been calculated at approximately 1 in 332 trillion. 1 in 332 trillion. That number is so large it becomes meaningless. It's the kind of number that makes scientists uncomfortable and makes everyone else wonder if something else entirely was at work that day in Rochester, New York. Some shots don't just defy logic. They seem to laugh at it. But of all the unbelievable shots in golf history, perhaps none carries more weight, more raw, human, devastating, triumphant weight than what happened at the 2019 Masters. Tiger Woods stood on the 18th green on a Sunday afternoon, needing to simply two-putt to win. 11 years after his last major. Years of surgeries. Years of personal catastrophe played out publicly. Years of people, including, at times, Tiger himself, wondering if he would ever be relevant again. He tapped in. He won. He collapsed into his son's arms. His daughter pressed her face into his chest. And Tiger Woods, who had always maintained an almost robotic emotional composure, simply dissolved. The shot wasn't spectacular. The putt wasn't long. But in that moment, every chip, every bunker escape, every impossible recovery over 14 Masters appearances somehow compressed into that final tap. And the world, golfers, non-golfers, people who'd never watched a tournament in their lives, felt it. If this video has reminded you of something, a comeback, a struggle, a moment you found something inside yourself you didn't know was there. This channel exists for exactly that feeling. Not just to show you highlights, but to show you what human beings are capable of when they refuse to accept limitations. Because that's the thread connecting every shot we've talked about today. Sarazen at Augusta in 1935. Tiger on the 16th in 2005. Leonard's 45-footer at Brookline. Mickelson bending physics around a pine tree. For men, making the mathematically impossible happen on the same hole on the same afternoon. And Tiger, broken and rebuilt, weeping in the arms of his children on the most famous green in golf. None of these moments happened because of perfect conditions. None of them happened when everything was easy. Every single one of them was born from a moment where the rational, logical, sensible choice was to do something smaller, to play it safe, to accept the limitation. And every single one of these athletes looked at that voice, that small, frightened, sensible voice, and swung anyway. Golf isn't just a sport. It never was. It's a mirror. Every shot you take tells you something true about who you are, whether you back down or whether you swing, whether you accept the boundary or whether you quietly, stubbornly, with a deep breath and steady hands, ignore it completely. And somewhere out there, on a course you've never heard of, on a hole nobody's watching, someone is about to hit a shot that will change everything for them. Not because the cameras are rolling, not because the crowd is watching, but because in that one private, pressurized moment, they chose to believe it was possible. Subscribe to this channel, not for the highlights, for the belief. Because every week, we find another moment, another human being, another shot that reminds you what refusing limitation actually looks like, when it's real, when it counts, and when everything is on the line. The next one might be even more unbelievable than anything you saw today, and you won't want to miss it.